The stars had been quiet for 500 years. Ambassador Zixithara moved through the crystal corridors of Harmonia Prime with the same calm grace that had marked her people for generations. Her blue skin shimmered with the natural patterns that showed her peaceful mood. Around her, beings from across the galaxy went about their daily lives without fear, without weapons, without the need to look over their shoulders. The Galactic Confederation was proud of what they had built. After the Great War against the Devourers 1,000 years ago, the surviving races had sworn never to fight again. They had kept that promise. Wars were things of the ancient past, solved now through talking, sharing, and understanding. Zixithara paused at a viewing window that looked out over the capital city. Ships from dozens of worlds moved peacefully through the sky. There were no weapons on those ships. No armor, no shields meant for battle. They were built for comfort, for science, for art. The galaxy had grown beyond the need for violence. The Syntheri floated past her, their crystal bodies singing soft melodies that spoke of joy and contentment. They had evolved beyond individual thought, sharing their minds in harmony. The idea of one Synthari fighting another was impossible now. They literally could not think thoughts of violence. Near the gardens, a group of Verdani delegates swayed in the artificial sunlight. Their plant-like forms moved slowly, thoughtfully. When the Verdani needed to make decisions, they connected their root systems and voted as one living democracy. It took time, but it was always fair, always peaceful. The Nebulan representative was harder to see. As a being made of gas and energy, Ambassador Drift moved like a cloud through the halls. The Nebulon had no physical form that could be hurt, and so they had forgotten what pain meant. They spent their time thinking great thoughts and sharing wisdom with anyone who would listen. This was the galaxy that Zixithara knew. This was the galaxy she helped protect through words instead of weapons. The soft chime of her communication device interrupted her thoughts. Her assistant, a young Kalani named Veltar, appeared on the screen with an expression of confusion. "Ambassador," Veltar said, "we have received a transmission from an unknown system. The signals appear to be from a previously undiscovered species." Zixithara felt a flutter of excitement. New species were rare but not unheard of. Usually they were primitive civilizations just learning to use radio waves. The Confederation had strict rules about not interfering with developing worlds until they were ready for contact. "What is the nature of the transmission?" she asked. "It appears to be entertainment broadcasts, news reports, and something they call the Internet. Our translation computers are working on their language now." Zixithara nodded. "Primitive radio signals. Standard procedure applies. We observe but do not make contact until they develop faster than light travel." But Veltar looked troubled. "Ambassador, that is what we thought at first. But 3 days ago, a ship appeared at the edge of our detection grid. It moves faster than light. It is definitely from the same species that sent the radio signals. This was unexpected." Zixithara had seen many first contacts in her 200 years as an ambassador. Most new species took thousands of years to go from radio signals to space travel. These beings had done it quickly. Very quickly. "Have they made any hostile moves?" she asked. "No, Ambassador. In fact, they sent a message as soon as they detected our border stations. They request permission to make peaceful contact." Zixithara smiled. Another peaceful species seeking to join the galaxy's harmony. "Prepare a welcome committee. We will receive them on Harmonia Prime as honored guests." 2 days later, the human ship arrived. Zixithara watched from the observation deck as the strange vessel approached the orbital platform. It was unlike any ship she had ever seen. Where Confederation ships were smooth and flowing, built for beauty and comfort, this ship was angular and harsh. It had thick metal plating and what looked like weapon ports, though they appeared to be sealed shut. The ship's name was painted on its side in their alien script, UNSC Endeavor. When the humans emerged from their ship, Zixithara was surprised by how ordinary they looked. They were bipedal, like the Kalani, but with lighter skin and no natural armor. They had hair growing from their heads in various colors, and their eyes were small and focused. The leader introduced herself as Captain Elena Vasquez. She was shorter than Zixithara, with dark hair and careful eyes that seemed to notice everything. When she spoke, her voice was steady and respectful. "We come in peace," Captain Vasquez said through the translation device. "We seek friendship and knowledge. We have much to learn from your great civilization." The formal first contact ceremony took place in the Grand Hall of Understanding. Representatives from all major Confederation species gathered to welcome the humans. Captain Vasquez brought 5 other humans with her, each one alert and disciplined in a way that reminded Zixthara of something she could not quite place. "We are honored to meet you," Zixthara said as she began the ceremony. "We welcome all peaceful beings to our Confederation. We have enjoyed 500 years of harmony, and we hope you will join us in maintaining that peace." Captain Vasquez nodded politely. "We appreciate your welcome. We too hope for peace between our peoples." The other ambassadors began asking questions about human culture, technology, and philosophy. The humans answered carefully, sharing information about their art, their science, and their exploration of their home system. Then Ambassador Veltar, who had been studying the human broadcasts, asked an innocent question. "Captain Vasquez," he said, "our computers have been translating your entertainment and news programs. We are curious about some concepts we do not understand. What are wars, armies, and weapons?" The hall fell silent. Captain Vasquez and her team exchanged glances. For the first time since arriving, the captain looked uncomfortable. "Those are difficult topics to explain," she said slowly. "They are parts of our history that we are not proud of." But the other ambassadors were curious now. The Synthari sang a questioning harmony. The Verdani swayed with interest. Ambassador Drift's cloudy form shifted with what might have been excitement. "Please," Zixthara said gently. "We are all friends here. We seek only to understand your people better." Captain Vasquez sighed. She looked at her team again, then back at the assembled aliens. "Very well, but I must warn you, our history contains concepts that may be disturbing to peaceful peoples such as yourselves." She activated a display device and began to show images from human history. At first, the aliens watched with mild interest. Pictures of ancient humans hunting animals for food seemed primitive but understandable. Then the images changed. Humans fighting other humans with sticks and stones. Humans in metal armor, charging at each other with sharp weapons. Humans firing guns at each other across muddy fields. Humans dropping bombs on cities. Humans building weapons that could destroy entire planets. The alien ambassadors watched in growing horror. The Synthari's harmony became discordant with shock. The Verdani stopped swaying and stood rigid with fear. Ambassador Drift's form began to pulse with distress. "I do not understand," Zixthara whispered. "These images show your own species fighting each other, killing each other. Why would you do such things?" Captain Vasquez's expression was grim. "Resources, territory, religion, politics, fear. Throughout our history, humans have found many reasons to fight. We have been at war with someone somewhere for almost our entire recorded history." The hall erupted in shocked voices. Never in 500 years had the Confederation encountered a species that still practiced warfare. The very concept was alien to them. "But surely," said the Nebulon ambassador, "this is ancient history. You have evolved beyond such behavior?" Captain Vasquez shook her head. "The images I showed you span from 10,000 years ago to last month. We have several conflicts happening on different worlds even now." Zixthara felt her world shifting. These humans were not primitive. They had faster-than-light travel, advanced technology, and sophisticated science. Yet they still fought wars. "How?" she asked in a shaking voice. "How is your species still alive?" Captain Vasquez met her eyes with a steady gaze. "Because we are very, very good at war." The emergency session of the Galactic Council lasted for 3 days. Zixthara sat in her designated chair, watching as representatives from across the Confederation argued about what to do with the humans. The debate had been going in circles since the shocking revelation about human warfare. Some wanted to send the humans away immediately. Others suggested keeping them under observation. A few even proposed trying to fix their violent nature through therapy and meditation. Captain Vasquez and her team waited patiently in a nearby chamber. They had agreed to stay while the council decided their fate. The humans seemed neither surprised nor offended by the Confederation's reaction. If anything, they appeared to understand it completely. On the 3rd day, everything changed. Zixthara was reviewing the morning reports when her communication device began flashing urgent red signals. Feltar's face appeared on the screen, his usually calm expression replaced by pure terror. "Ambassador," he said, his voice shaking, "we have a situation, A very bad situation. What is it? Sixathera asked, though she could already feel the cold grip of fear in her stomach. Long-range sensors have detected ships at the edge of the galaxy. Unknown configuration. They are moving toward inhabited systems. Sixathera felt the blood drain from her face. Unknown ships could only mean one thing. Show me. The display filled with sensor data. Dark, angular ships moved through space like hungry predators. Their design was unlike anything in Confederation records, except for one terrible detail. Sixathera had seen ships like these before, in the ancient historical files from 1,000 years ago. By all the peaceful stars, she whispered, they have returned. The Devourers were back. Within hours, the news spread across Harmonia Prime. Panic filled the streets as beings who had never known war tried to understand what was coming. The Confederation's leaders gathered in emergency session, their faces filled with the same terror that gripped every citizen. Fleet Admiral Zenko, an elderly Kalani who commanded the Confederation's exploration fleet, stood before the assembled council. His voice was steady, but his hands shook as he delivered his report. The enemy fleet consists of approximately 5,000 ships, he said. They are heading for the Outer Rim colonies. At current speed, they will reach the first inhabited systems in 47 days. Council leader Marthak, a massive Verdani whose root beard had grown white with age, swayed slowly as he spoke. What defensive measures can we implement? Admiral Zenko looked down at his datapad. We have 300 ships in our exploration fleet. They are equipped with scientific instruments, communication arrays, and basic deflector shields for asteroid protection. None carry weapons. Can we evacuate the threatened systems? Our transport ships can carry perhaps 50,000 beings at a time. The colonies in the Devourer's path have a combined population of 8 billion. The silence that followed was deafening. Sixathera cleared her throat. What about our planetary defense systems? Designed to prevent asteroid impacts and regulate space traffic, Admiral Zenko replied. They were never intended to stop military vessels. For 500 years, the Confederation had built a society without weapons, without armies, without any preparation for war. Now they faced an enemy that existed only to destroy, and they had no way to fight back. There is one option, said a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. All eyes turned to see Captain Vasquez standing in the doorway. She had been listening to the debate, her expression growing grimmer with each word. Council leader Marthak's branches rustled with irritation. Captain, you were not invited to this session. No, Vasquez replied calmly. But you need to hear what I have to say. She walked to the center of the chamber, her small human form dwarfed by the massive alien representatives around her. But something in her bearing made her seem larger than them all. You are all going to die, she said simply. Every single one of you and every being in your confederation. The Devourers do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They exist only to consume and destroy, and you have no way to stop them. The council erupted in angry voices, but Vasquez raised her hand for silence. However, she continued, we might be able to help you. Sixathera felt a spark of hope. How Vasquez turned to Admiral Zenko. Admiral, what is the maximum acceleration of your fastest ship? The Kalani checked his data. 4 gravities for short periods. Our crews cannot handle more than that safely. Weapon systems? We have mining lasers for asteroid clearing. Some ships have tractor beams for cargo handling. Vasquez nodded grimly. And your crews have no military training whatsoever. Training for what? We do not understand the concept. Captain Vasquez was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling with something. Finally, she spoke. I need to contact my superiors on Earth. We have been looking for allies, and you seem like good people. But if we help you, everything will change. Your peaceful society, your way of life, everything you have built over 5 centuries will be different. Council leader Marthak leaned forward. Explain. To fight the Devourers, you will need to become warriors. We can teach you, but once you learn to make war, you cannot unlearn it. The knowledge will be with you forever. Sixathera thought of the images she had seen of human warfare. The violence, the destruction, the terrible efficiency of organized killing. She imagined her peaceful people learning such things and felt sick. But then she thought of 8 billion innocent beings facing the Devourers with no protection at all. Captain Vasquez, she said slowly, if we do nothing, how many of our people will survive? None, Vasquez replied without hesitation. The Devourers do not leave survivors. They consume everything, planets, stars, entire systems. When they are done, there is nothing left but empty space. And if we accept your help, some will live. Maybe most if you learn quickly and fight smart, but they will live in a galaxy where war is possible again. The debate that followed was unlike anything in Confederation history. For the first time in 500 years, the Council faced a choice between their principles and their survival. The Syntheri argued that violence would corrupt their harmonic connection, making them no better than the Devourers themselves. The Nebulon suggested that accepting destruction with dignity was preferable to abandoning their peaceful nature. Many of the Verdani voted for attempting to negotiate with the Devourers, despite Captain Vasquez's warning that they could not be reasoned with. But as the reports came in from the Outer Rim, the debate began to shift. Long-range probes sent to monitor the approaching fleet transmitted their final data before being destroyed. The images they sent back showed the truth of Vasquez's words. The Devourers had found a small research station on the edge of the galaxy. Home to 3,000 scientists studying stellar formation, it was completely peaceful and defenseless. The station had tried to broadcast messages of greeting, offering to share their scientific knowledge. The Devourers had responded by tearing the station apart and consuming everything, including the people inside. When the horrific images reached Harmonia Prime, the debate ended. Zixthera stood before the Council, her voice heavy with the weight of history. We call for a vote. All in favor of requesting military assistance from the humans? The result was overwhelming. Even the Synthari, with their shared consciousness, had reached the terrible conclusion that survival required abandoning their deepest beliefs. Council leader Marthak spoke the words that would change the galaxy forever. Captain Vasquez, on behalf of the Galactic Confederation, we formally request your help in defending our people against the Devourers. Captain Vasquez nodded grimly. I will contact Earth immediately, but I want you to understand something before we begin. Once we start teaching you how to fight, there will be no going back. War is not something you can learn and then forget. It changes you. It changes everything. Zixthera looked around the chamber at her fellow ambassadors. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination. They had made their choice. We understand, Captain. What do you need from us? Vasquez's expression was that of someone accepting a terrible burden. Give me a list of every ship, every weapon, every resource you have. I need to know what we are working with. And then? Then we turn your peaceful exploration fleet into a navy. We turn your scientists into soldiers. We take everything beautiful and innocent about your society, and we teach it how to kill. The chamber fell silent as the weight of those words settled over them. Outside the windows of the council chamber, the stars still shone peacefully. But everyone in that room knew that the age of peace was ending. In 43 days, the Devourers would reach the first Confederation colony. In 43 days, the galaxy would remember what war meant. The human reinforcements arrived 3 days later. Zixthera watched from the observation deck as ship after ship emerged from hyperspace. Unlike the peaceful vessels of the Confederation, these human ships were clearly built for war. Their hulls were thick with armor plating, bristling with weapon systems and defensive arrays. But what struck her most was not the ships themselves, but how they moved. The Confederation fleet drifted through space like leaves on a gentle current, each ship following its own peaceful path. The human ships moved like a school of predatory fish, coordinated and purposeful, maintaining perfect formation even in the chaos of arrival. Captain Vasquez had kept her word. Earth had sent help. The lead human ship docked with Harmonia Prime, and Zixthera found herself meeting the most terrifying beings she had ever encountered. They called themselves military advisors, but to her peaceful eyes they looked like something from a nightmare. General Marcus Chen was a compact human with scars on his hands and cold intelligence in his dark eyes. He had spent 30 years fighting in what humans called brush wars on frontier colonies. When he spoke about tactics and strategy, he used words that had no translation in any Confederation language. Admiral Sarah Kingston commanded the human fleet elements. She was tall and stern, with gray hair and the kind of presence that made others instinctively step aside. She had fought space battles against human pirates and rebellious colonies, and her ships bore the marks of those conflicts. Dr. James Wright looked more like the scientist Zixthera was used to, But his specialty was what humans called strategic planning. He studied entire wars the way Confederation researchers studied star formation, looking for patterns and weaknesses that could be exploited. They gathered in the war room that had been hastily constructed in the depths of Harmonia Prime. The chamber was filled with displays showing the positions of Confederation and Devourer forces, updated in real time by long-range sensors. "Show me what you have," General Chen said without preamble. Admiral Zenko activated the tactical display. 300 ships in our exploration fleet. Each carries a crew of 50 to 100 beings. Standard equipment includes sensor arrays, communication systems, basic deflector shields, and mining lasers. Chen studied the data with the focus of a predator examining prey. "These are not warships. These are barely civilian vessels. What about your planetary defenses? Each major world has orbital stations for traffic control and asteroid protection. The weapons are designed to break up small rocks, not fight enemy ships." "Ground forces?" Admiral Zenko looked confused. "I do not understand the term. Soldiers. Military personnel. Beings trained to fight on planetary surfaces. We have no such people." "Why would we?" Admiral Kingston leaned forward. "What about your police forces? Security personnel? Our peacekeepers focus on mediation and conflict resolution. They carry communication devices and counseling certifications." Dr. Wright looked up from his datapad. "Let me see if I understand this correctly. You have no military ships, no military weapons, no military training, and no military personnel of any kind." "That is correct," Admiral Zenko said proudly. "We have lived in peace for 500 years. The humans exchanged glances that Zixathera was beginning to recognize. It was the look they got when confronted with something that challenged their understanding of reality. "Admiral," General Chen said slowly, "how exactly did you expect to fight the Devourers?" We hoped you would fight them for us." The silence that followed was painful. Finally, Admiral Kingston spoke. "Admiral Zenko, we brought 200 ships and approximately 50,000 personnel. The Devourer fleet numbers in the thousands. Even if we were willing to fight your war for you, which we are not, we could not possibly win against those odds." Zixathera felt the cold grip of despair. "Then we are doomed." "Not necessarily," Dr. Wright said. "But you need to understand what we are proposing. We are not going to fight for you. We are going to teach you to fight for yourselves." General Chen activated his own display. "Here is what we need to do. First, we convert your exploration ships into combat vessels. Install weapons, upgrade shields, modify them for military operations. Second, we train your crews in basic combat tactics. Third, we establish military command structures and communication protocols." "How long will this take?" asked Admiral Zenko. "Normally, 5 to 10 years minimum. We have 37 days. The magnitude of the challenge hit Zixathera like a physical blow. They were asking her people to learn in 5 weeks what humans had spent millennia perfecting. Admiral Kingston continued the briefing. "We will start with your most promising vessels and crews. The humans will work alongside your people, teaching as we retrofit. But understand this, we cannot make warriors out of pacifists overnight. Your people will die learning these lessons." "How many will die?" Zixathera asked. Dr. Wright consulted his calculations. "In training? Probably a few hundred if we are careful. In actual combat against the Devourers, without proper preparation, I estimate 70 to 80% casualties in the first engagement." The alien representatives in the room recoiled in horror. Such losses were unimaginable to people who had not seen a violent death in centuries. "But," Wright continued, "if your people can learn quickly and follow orders, those numbers improve dramatically. Humans have developed warfare into a science. We know how to achieve victory with minimum losses, but only if everyone does exactly what they are trained to do." General Chen stood up and walked to the display showing Confederation space. "Your people are about to face something they have never experienced. The reality of organized violence. The Devourers are efficient killers who have been perfecting their art for thousands of years. Your only advantage is that we are going to teach you to be something they have never faced before." "What is that?" Admiral Zenko asked. "Students of human warfare." The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Human engineers swarmed over Confederation ships installing weapon systems and armor plating. The peaceful corridors of Harmonia Prime echoed with the sound of construction as new command centers and training facilities were built. Zixathera found herself assigned as liaison to Dr. Wright. helping him understand Confederation culture and psychology. She watched in fascination and horror as he designed training programs tailored to each species. The Kalani are individualistic and have quick reflexes, he explained as he worked. They will make good fighter pilots and special operations personnel. The Synthari think collectively and communicate instantly, perfect for coordinated fleet actions. The Verdani are slow but methodical and democratic. They will excel at defensive operations where they have time to plan. And the Nebulon? Zixthera asked. Wright paused. The Nebulon are going to be a problem. Their energy-based physiology makes them nearly impossible to kill, but they also cannot interface with standard control systems. We might use them for reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. It was strange to hear her people discussed like military resources, but Zixthera was beginning to understand the cold logic of warfare. Everything was a tool to be used, every advantage exploited, every weakness compensated for or eliminated. The first training exercises began 5 days after the humans arrived. Zixthera watched from the observation deck as Confederation crews attempted their first combat maneuvers. It was a disaster. Ships collided because their crews were not used to aggressive piloting. Weapons fired in the wrong directions because the operators had never imagined shooting at anything that might shoot back. Communication channels filled with polite requests for clarification that would have gotten everyone killed in a real battle. But the humans were patient. They repeated exercises over and over, adjusting their teaching methods for alien psychology. Slowly, gradually, the Confederation crews began to improve. Admiral Kingston worked with the ship crews, teaching them to think of their vessels as weapons instead of exploration platforms. Your ship is not a home, she would tell them. It is a tool for delivering death to your enemies. Every system, every decision, every action must serve that purpose. General Chen focused on ground operations, though there were fewer opportunities for planetary combat training. If the Devourers reach a planet's surface, he explained, that planet is lost. Our job is to stop them in space. But it was Dr. Wright who made the most disturbing observations. As he watched the alien crew slowly adapt to military thinking, he began to see changes that went beyond mere technical competence. They are learning too well, he confided to Zixthera one evening. I designed the training to be gradual, to preserve as much of their peaceful nature as possible. But they are absorbing military concepts faster than I expected. Zixthera had noticed it too. Kalani crew members who had been gentle scientists a week ago now spoke casually of acceptable loss ratios and target prioritization. Synthari harmonies had developed harsh martial rhythms. Even the peaceful Verdani had begun making decisions quickly instead of taking time for democratic consensus. Is this what you meant, she asked, when you said we could not unlearn warfare? Dr. Wright nodded grimly. War changes people, it has to. Peaceful, considerate beings do not survive in combat. To fight effectively, your people must become something harder, colder, more calculating. The first battle came 18 days ahead of schedule. Zixthera was in the command center when the emergency signals began flashing. The Devourer fleet had split into multiple groups, with the fastest ships racing ahead to strike the outer colonies before the Confederation forces were ready. Contact with Kepler Station lost, reported Lieutenant Kextar, a young Kalani who had been trained in human communication protocols. His voice was steady, but Zixthera could see the fear in his eyes. Admiral Kingston stood at the tactical display, her expression grim. How many ships were defending that system? 12, all newly retrofitted with human weapons. And the Devourer force? Estimated at 50 ships. The odds were terrible, but not impossible. Human tactical doctrine emphasized using superior technology and training to overcome numerical disadvantages. The question was whether the Confederation crews had learned enough in 3 weeks to apply those lessons. General Chen entered the command center, followed by Captain Vasquez. The general's face was dark with concern. Status report, he demanded. Kepler Station is under attack, Admiral Kingston replied. Captain Torres is commanding the defense with 12 retrofitted ships. No word yet on casualties. They waited in tense silence as the long-range communications struggled to penetrate the interference of battle. Finally, a weak signal came through. This is Captain Torres to Harmonia Command. We have engaged the enemy. Enemy force is larger than expected. Estimate 60 to 70 Devourer ships. The signal crackled with static and the background noise of combat. Explosions echoed through the communication link, requesting immediate reinforcement. We have lost 4 ships. Repeat, 4 ships destroyed. The enemy is adapting to our tactics faster than anticipated. General Chen grabbed the communication device. Captain Torres, this is General Chen. What is your assessment of enemy capabilities? Sir, they learned from each engagement. Our first attacks were successful, but they modified their formations and defensive patterns within minutes. It's like fighting an enemy that gets smarter during the battle. Zixthara felt her heart sink. The humans had warned that the Devourers were dangerous, but this level of adaptation was beyond what anyone had expected. Captain, Admiral Kingston interrupted. What about your crew performance? There was a pause filled with weapon fire and shouting. The Kalani pilots are performing well. Better than expected. The Syntheri coordination is exceptional. But Admiral, Torres's voice dropped. They're enjoying it. Explain. My Kalani flight leader just executed a perfect attack run that destroyed 3 enemy ships. When he reported in, he was laughing. The Syntheri are singing battle songs I've never heard before. They're not just fighting, Admiral. They're hunting. Dr. Wright looked up from his tactical analysis with concern. That is faster psychological adaptation than my models predicted. The battle for Kepler Station lasted 14 hours. When it was over, the Confederation forces had achieved something unprecedented. Victory. Captain Torres's report was both encouraging and disturbing. The Confederation fleet had destroyed 68 Devourer ships while losing only 7 of their own. The remaining enemy ships had retreated, which was itself unusual behavior for Devourers, but the cost of victory went beyond the ships lost. The Kalani pilots are asking for more dangerous assignments, Torres reported. They want to hunt down the retreating Devourers. The Syntheri have developed new harmonic patterns that seem designed for combat coordination. And the Verdani, he paused. The Verdani have voted to abandon their consensus-based decision-making during military operations. They want faster, more authoritarian command structures. General Chen received the report with mixed feelings. Tactically, this is excellent news. The crews are adapting to military thinking and performing beyond expectations. Strategically, Dr. Wright finished. We have just proven that peaceful species can become highly effective warriors in a matter of weeks. The psychological barriers that we thought would limit their military development do not exist. Over the following days, more battles erupted across the Confederation border. Each engagement followed the same pattern. Initial Devourer advantage overcome by increasingly sophisticated Confederation tactics. The alien crews were not just learning human warfare, they were improving on it. The Kalani developed new fighter tactics that took advantage of their superior reflexes. The Syntheri created fleet coordination systems that allowed dozens of ships to act as a single organism. The Verdani designed defensive strategies that turned every battle into a carefully planned trap. Most disturbing of all, they began developing their own innovations. Zixthara was present when the first reports came in of what human observers called alien warfare adaptations. A Kalani squadron had used their natural armor-piercing claws to manually sabotage Devourer ships during boarding actions. A group of Synthari had discovered they could use their harmonic abilities to interfere with enemy communications. The Verdani had developed biological warfare using spores from their home world. They're not just learning our methods, Admiral Kingston observed during a strategy meeting. They're creating entirely new forms of warfare based on their unique physiologies. General Chen was studying casualty reports with growing unease. Look at these numbers. 3 months ago, these beings had never seen violence. Now they're achieving kill ratios that would make human special forces envious. Is that not good? Asked Admiral Zenko, who had himself undergone rapid transformation from peaceful explorer to competent military commander. We are winning. Yes, Dr. Wright replied slowly, but you are winning too well. The Devourer advance had been not just stopped, but reversed. Confederation forces were now pursuing the enemy, destroying isolated ships and reclaiming conquered territory. What had begun as a desperate defensive action was becoming a war of extermination, and the Confederation species were embracing it completely. Reports came in of volunteer crews requesting assignment to the most dangerous missions. Entire planets were converting their industrial capacity to weapons production. Young aliens who had never imagined violence were enlisting in military service in numbers that overwhelmed training facilities. "We created this to save your civilization," General Chen told the Confederation Council during an emergency session. "But I am beginning to wonder if we have destroyed it instead." Council leader Marthak, whose ancient wisdom had guided the Confederation for decades, swayed slowly as he considered the general's words. "Explain your concern. 6 months ago, your people were incapable of violence. Today, they are some of the most effective warriors I have ever seen. The transition is too complete, too rapid. You have not just learned to fight. You have become a warrior culture." "But we are winning," protested Admiral Zenko. "The Devourers are retreating." "Our casualties are minimal. Our tactics are superior." Captain Vasquez spoke up from her position near the back of the chamber. "Admiral, may I ask you a question?" "Of course." "When this war is over, when the Devourers are defeated, what will you do with your fleets? With your weapons? With your trained warriors?" The question hung in the air like a poison cloud. For the first time since the war began, the Confederation leaders looked uncertain. "We will return to peaceful exploration," Admiral Zenko said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Will you?" Dr. Wright asked quietly. "Your crews have tasted victory. Your people have discovered they are naturally gifted at warfare. Your industrial base is now optimized for military production. Do you really think you can simply turn all of that off?" Zixthara realized what the humans were trying to tell them. She looked around the chamber at her fellow leaders and saw the change that had occurred. Where once they had spoken of harmony and cooperation, now they discussed victory and domination. Where once they had sought to understand their enemies, now they planned their destruction. "We have become like you," she whispered. Captain Vasquez nodded sadly. "Yes, and that terrifies us. Why?" demanded Admiral Zenko. "You are the most successful species in the galaxy. Your warriors are legendary. Your technology is superior." "Admiral," General Chen replied, "do you know how many wars humanity has fought in the past century? How many of our own colonies have rebelled against Earth? How many times we have come close to destroying ourselves completely?" The alien leaders remained silent. "We gave you the tools to defeat the Devourers," Chen continued, "but we also gave you the curse that has haunted humanity since we first picked up sticks and stones. You now know how to make war, and once you know that, peace becomes just the time between conflicts." Outside the council chamber, reports continued to arrive of Confederation victories. The war was going exactly as the humans had planned. That was the problem. The final battle began at the edge of Devourer space, where the last remnants of the ancient enemy had gathered for one desperate assault. Zixes. Thara stood in the command center of the new flagship, Harmony's End, watching as the largest fleet in galactic history prepared for what everyone hoped would be the war's conclusion. Around her, beings who had been peaceful explorers 6 months ago coordinated the movements of 3,000 warships with cold efficiency. The Devourer fleet numbered barely 500 ships, but intelligence reports suggested they had undergone their own evolution. Captured technology, analyzed tactics, and adaptive programming had made them more dangerous than ever before. Admiral Zenko, now bearing scars from 3 boarding actions and wearing human-designed battle armor, stood at the tactical display. His transformation from peaceful explorer to hardened warrior was complete, and it disturbed Zixthara more than she cared to admit. "All units report ready for final assault," he announced. "Estimated time to target, 4 hours?" General Chen and Admiral Kingston stood nearby, but they were no longer leading the operation. The Confederation forces had surpassed their human teachers in both capability and ruthlessness. The aliens were now teaching the humans new ways to wage war. Captain Vasquez approached Zixthara with a troubled expression. "Ambassador, we need to talk." They moved to a private conference room where Dr. Wright was waiting with a data pad full of disturbing information. "What is it?" Zixthara asked. "We have been monitoring communications from Earth," Vasquez replied. "Our government is very interested in what has happened here." Wright activated his display. "The Confederation has developed military capabilities that exceed anything in human space. Your industrial capacity, your coordination systems, your tactical innovations, you have become the most powerful military force in known space. Is that not good? We can defeat the Devourers completely." "That is exactly what worries Earth," Vasquez said. 6 months ago, humanity was the only major military power in this region of the galaxy. Now we have created a rival that could potentially threaten human space. Zixthara felt a cold realization settling over her. You are afraid of us. Not afraid, Wright corrected. Concerned. Our political leaders are asking questions about long-term strategic implications. Some are suggesting that we should limit Confederation military development to prevent future conflicts. How would you do that? Captain Vasquez's expression was grim. By ensuring the Devourers are not completely destroyed. A reduced but surviving enemy would require the Confederation to maintain defensive positions rather than developing offensive capabilities. The implications hit Zixthara like a physical blow. You would allow the Devourers to survive? To continue threatening innocent worlds? Not my choice, Vasquez replied quickly. But there are factions on Earth who see a weakened Devourer remnant as preferable to a fully militarized Confederation. Before Zixthara could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Admiral Zenko's voice echoed through the corridors. All personnel to battle stations. The Devourers have launched a preemptive strike. The final battle was unlike anything in galactic history. The Devourers had indeed evolved, developing new weapons and tactics based on their analysis of previous engagements. But the Confederation forces had evolved faster. What followed was not a battle but a demonstration of perfect military coordination. Kilani fighter squadrons moved through the enemy formation like deadly dancers. Their natural reflexes enhanced by human training and alien innovation, Syntheri fleet elements acted as a single organism, coordinating attacks across hundreds of light seconds with harmonic precision that no individual species could match. Verdani command ships orchestrated the battle with strategic planning that incorporated multiple backup scenarios and adaptive responses. Zixthara watched in fascination and horror as her people destroyed the Devourer fleet with ruthless efficiency. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were reduced to debris in minutes. The ancient enemy that had required the sacrifice of entire civilizations to defeat was being methodically exterminated by beings who had learned warfare in 6 months. All enemy vessels destroyed, reported Admiral Zenko. No survivors detected. The command center erupted in cheers from crew members representing dozens of peaceful species. They had saved the galaxy, preserved their civilization, and eliminated an existential threat that had haunted space for eons. But Captain Vasquez was not celebrating. She stood at a secondary display, studying data that made her expression grow darker by the moment. What is it? Zixthara asked. The battle recordings, Vasquez replied quietly. Your people did not just defeat the Devourers. They enjoyed it. The recordings showed Kalani pilots laughing as they destroyed enemy ships. Syntheri harmonies had become victory songs filled with martial triumph. Verdani commanders were already discussing plans to pursue fleeing Devourer remnants across the galaxy. Dr. Wright, Admiral Zenko called out, begin preparations for pursuit operations. We cannot allow any Devourers to escape and rebuild. Admiral, Wright replied carefully. Our mission was to defend Confederation space. The immediate threat has been eliminated. The threat will not be eliminated until every Devourer ship is destroyed, Zenko responded with cold logic. We have the capability. We have the responsibility. General Chen stepped forward. Admiral, that would require expanding operations far beyond Confederation territory. You would be taking the war to neutral space, possibly threatening other civilizations. Then they will surrender or be conquered. Admiral Zenko replied matter-of-factly. The galaxy has seen what happens when evil is allowed to survive. We will not make that mistake. The transformation was complete. The peaceful Confederation had become something humanity recognized all too well. A military empire convinced of its own righteousness. Over the following hours, arguments erupted between human advisors and Confederation leaders. The aliens wanted to pursue total victory, using their new military might to eliminate any potential threat to galactic peace. The humans tried to explain the dangers of unlimited warfare, but their words fell on deaf ears. You taught us to fight, Admiral Zenko said during one heated exchange. You cannot now complain that we fight too well. Captain Vasquez made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Admiral Zenko, she announced during an emergency council session, humanity formally withdraws all military support from Confederation operations. The alien leaders reacted with shock and anger. You cannot abandon us now, protested Council Leader Marthak. We are still at war. No, Vasquez replied firmly. The war is over. The Devourers are defeated. What you are planning now is not defense but conquest. We seek only to ensure lasting peace, by imposing your will on the entire galaxy. That is not peace, Admiral. That is empire. Dr. Wright stepped forward with data that silenced the arguments. We have analyzed your military production schedules, your fleet expansion plans, your strategic assessments. Within 5 years, the Confederation will have the largest military force in galactic history. Within 10 years, you will be capable of conquering any civilization that refuses to accept your version of peace. And that is wrong because? Asked Admiral Zenko. Because, General Chen replied, that is exactly how the Devourers started. The silence that followed was deafening. Captain Vasquez continued her announcement. Effective immediately, all human military personnel will withdraw from Confederation space. We will provide no further training, no additional weapons, no tactical support. You are making a mistake, warned Admiral Zenko. The galaxy needs strong leadership. We can provide that leadership. The galaxy needs protection, not rulers, Vasquez replied. And the greatest threat to galactic peace is no longer the Devourers. It is you. As the human ships prepared to leave, Zixathara found herself facing the most difficult decision of her life. She could remain with the Confederation as it transformed into a military empire, or she could accept an offer that Captain Vasquez had made privately. Come with us, Vasquez had said. Help us establish a monitoring station at the edge of the galaxy. Someone needs to watch what the Confederation becomes, and someone needs to remember what it used to be. Zixathara looked around the flagship that bore the name Harmony's End. The name was more prophetic than anyone had realized. The harmony of 500 years of peace was truly ending, replaced by the efficient coordination of military might. I will come, she told Vasquez. Someone should remember what we were before we learned to be what you are. As the human fleet departed Confederation space, they left behind a galaxy that was safe from the Devourers but faced a new threat, the Confederation itself. The peaceful species had learned too well the lessons of war, and there was no way to unlearn them. In the years that followed, the Confederation would indeed expand across the galaxy, bringing their version of peace to countless worlds. Some accepted willingly, others required convincing. All learned that resistance was futile against beings who had mastered the human art of warfare. From her monitoring station at the galaxy's edge, Zixathara watched it all unfold. She remembered the peaceful beings who had once swayed in gardens and sang harmonic melodies, and voted on every decision with patient democracy.